Should I start the class?
Hello, please start the class, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah, 1 minute, ma'am. Just 1 minute. 1 minute.
okay, fine.
Yeah, you can start the class.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Aanchal, and today we're going to start with the new series that is of GIT, and in which the today's class topic is Introduction to GIT. So here are the core feature of Oracle, in which first we have the live classes, in which there will be one-to-one interaction of the student with the faculty, where knowledge meets interaction. Then we have the recorded classes that will give access to the classes anywhere, anytime through the recorded sessions. Then we have the notes that will be ultimate comprehensive books, which includes CBMB based question answers, MCQs, and fun zone for self-assessment. Then we have the MCQs that includes beginner level to expert level. You can also book a slot personalized session for the one-to-one interaction with the counselor. Then in GIT, we have the series of 8 classes for the month of February, in which first we will have the introduction of GIT, then mouth and saliva, then esophagus, stomach, liver, pancreas, small intestine, and the last we'll have large intestine. So here we're going to start with the introduction to GIT. So basically, the GIT is the portal or gate through which nutritive substances, vitamins, minerals, and fluids enter the body. We know that proteins, fats, carbohydrates are broken down into absorbable units in the small intestine. They can cross the mucosa and enter the lymph or blood, and therefore become more usable by the body. So in GIT, basically the most important step is the digestion. So basically digestion is defined as the process by which food is broken down into simple substances that can be absorbed and utilized as nutrients by the body. Most of the substances in the diet cannot be utilized as such. Such substances must be broken down into smaller particles so that they can be absorbed into blood and distributed to various parts of the body for utilization. And the GIT tract, the whole GIT tract is responsible for these functions. So basically, in GIT, we will study about the several steps in which first it will include ingestion. So ingestion is the first step that basically the intake of food into the mouth. Then followed by the ingestion, next we have the secretions. In secretions, we include all the secretions that include saliva, gastric juices, succus antricus, large intestinal juices, which basically help in the process of digestion. Then the next step we have is the digestion. So digestion, the initiation of digestion is basically occur in the mouth, then in stomach, then in the last, the final digestion will take place in the small intestine. So digestive process is accomplished by mechanical and enzymatic breakdown of food into simpler chemical compounds. A normal young health adult consume about 1 kg of solid diet and about 1 to 2 liter of liquid diet every day. So basically, what are the enzymes and how the enzymes will work, and what are the different types of enzymes and what are the source of their secretion, that we're going to learn in each chapter of this unit. Here we have the functions of digestive system. So first function, we have the ingestion or consumption of food substances. So as we know, the first primary part of GIT, we have the mouth, in which the ingestion means intake of food occurs. Then we have the breaking them into smaller particles. So again, the breaking down of food start in the mouth itself with the help of teeth that helps in the chewing. Then transport of small particle to different area of the digestive tract. So after ingestion of food, the food start moving from mouth to esophagus, then esophagus to stomach, stomach to intestine. Then there are secretion of necessary enzymes and other substances for digestion. So secretions, what are the different types of secretions that occur in GIT that we're going to learn in each chapter. For example, in mouth, there is a very important secretion, that is saliva, in which we have two important enzymes. The one is salivary amylase and the second is lingual lipase. Then digestion of the food particles. So digestion of the food particles again starts in mouth, then stomach, then small intestine, and last we will have large intestine. Absorption of the digestive products. So as we know, the absorption occurs in the small intestine with the help of the structure known as villi. Then last, we have the removal of unwanted substances from the body. So as we know, the removal of unwanted substances is known as defecation, and also we call it egestion of food. Okay, so here is a question that what is meant by the absorption of food. So I'm giving 30 seconds to answer this question. So the answer is D. End product of digestion are passed through the intestinal mucosa. Okay, now the function of digestive system. So these steps already we have discussed in the functions. The first is the ingestion that occurs in the mouth, then secretions. For example, saliva and salivary amylase, then gastric juice in stomach, then succus centricus in small intestine, then mixing and propulsion. So mixing and propulsion includes the mixing of food with these juices so that the digestion can be occurred properly. Then digestion involves, as we have discussed, the digestion of substances. So basically, what is digestion? The digestion means making the splitting of macromolecules into simpler mole-soluble form so that the absorption can be done properly. Then absorption. So absorption occurs in small intestine with the help of the structure known as villi. Then defecation. The defecation is the last step. That means the removal of unwanted substances that are not absorbed by the body, and that will occur with the help of the ants. Now, functional anatomy of digestive system. So, as we know, digestive system is made up of GI tract or alimentary canal and necessary organ, which help in the process of digestion and absorption. So, GI tract is a tubular structure extending from the mouth up to anus, which with a length of about 30 feet. It opens to the external environment on both ends. So GI tract is formed by two types of organ. The first we have the primary digestive and the second we have accessory. So primary digestive means those organs which are directly involved, and accessory means which are indirectly involved, but they also play a very important part. So first we have the primary digestive organs. So the primary digestive organs are basically are the organs which actual digestion take place, means they are directly involved. So in primary digestive organs, we have mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. So in mouth, basically, this is the space between lips externally and teeth and gums internally. So mouth is also known as the oral cavity. This is the area which contain teeth, tongue, and saliva. Talking about the processes that occur in mouth, that is, first we have the mastication, chewing, then second is the mixing, means mixing of food with the saliva. And the saliva contains two important enzymes. As we know, the first is salivary amylase, which help in the digestion of starch, and the second is lingual lipase, which help in the digestion of lipid. Then initiation of swallowing by the tongue, and also in mouth we have tongue, which over the tongue it contains receptors which allow the sense of taste. Then next structure we have pharynx, from the mouth, then the food will
Morning.
enter into the pharynx. Basically, it has three parts: the nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. So the nasopharynx, it is not the part of the digestive system. Oropharynx is the posterior to oral cavity, and the laryngopharynx, it is below the oropharynx and connected to the esophagus directly. Next, we have the esophagus. So what is esophagus basically? So basically, from the mouth, the chewed food with saliva passes into the pharynx, then into the esophagus, which is a 25 centimeter long fibromuscular tube lined with mucosa membrane, and the contraction and expansion movements of its wall, known as peristaltic movement, cause the food to pass into the stomach. Then next we have the stomach. So what is a stomach? Basically, the stomach acts as a storage tank for food. It is the site of food breakdown and mixing with the gastric juices. Then again, it is the chemical breakdown of protein. Here also begin with the help of the enzyme, that is pepsin, and here it delivers chyme, that is the processed food, into the small intestine. So basically, the main function of the stomach, that it acts as a storage tank, and here the food can be stored for 2 to 4 hours. Then it has pepsin, which is involved for the digestion of protein, and one more important component it has, that is HCl. So HCl is basically important for providing acidic environment, so that the enzyme can be activated and perform their action. The second main important function is that HCl kills all the bacteria which are present inside the food, and they can be harmful for the body too. Then next we have the small intestine. So as we know that small intestine is responsible for the complete digestion of all the macromolecules, and here the absorption of their component macromolecules also take place. The absorption of glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, nucleotides. Then here, talking about the part of the small intestine, so we know the small intestine is made up of 3 parts. The first we have duodenum, the second we have jejunum, and the third we have ileum. So first part, the part which is directly connected with the stomach is duodenum, and between stomach and duodenum there is a presence of a very important structure that is known as Parolic sphincter. So whenever the food is processed inside the stomach, means the food is ready to get delivered inside the small intestine. So at that time, the Parolic sphincter get relaxed and the food easily get passed inside the small intestine. Then from duodenum, the food will get reach inside the jejunum, and then from jejunum, it will reach inside the ileum. Talking about the functions of the small intestine, so basically 90% of the digestion and absorption of food occur here, and other 10% take place in the stomach and large intestine. So the main function of the small intestine is absorption of nutrients and minerals of food. Here, digestion of proteins also occur with the help of some enzymes, includes trypsin, chymotrypsin, that is also secreted by pancreas. This break down into more simpler or soluble substances, basically to smaller peptides. Then here, the digestion of lipids also take place with the help of the enzyme, again lipase, and digestion of carbohydrates are also take place. So basically, carbohydrates are here broken down into simple sugars and monosaccharides like glucose. And pancreatic amylase breaks down some carbohydrates to oligosaccharides as well. Some carbohydrates and fibers pass undigested to large intestine, where they may, depending on their type, be broken down by intestinal bacteria. So as we know, some bacteria are also present inside the large intestine. Then we have the next structure, which is again the very important one. This is large intestine. So again, the large intestine is composed of several very distinctive structure. The first we have cecum. So cecum is directly connected to the small intestine last part, and the last part of small intestine is ileum. So first part of large intestine is cecum. Then we have colon. So in colon, it consists of four parts. The first is ascending colon. The second is transverse colon. The third is descending colon. And the last is sigmoid colon. And the last part of large intestine is rectum. So rectum is the structure where the feces, the stool gets stored. Then talking about the functions of large intestine. So basically the most important function of large intestine is the absorption of water. So it is the primary function of large intestine to absorb water, and another function is to prepare the waste as a solid stool that will be expelled from the body. Then another important function is the absorption of vitamins with the help of some bacteria. So it also play a very important role in break down undigested sugars and fibers into fatty acids. So here we have discussed the primary digestive organs and what is the main function of these primary digestive organs. Okay, so one by one, we're going to revise those functions which already we have discussed. So first, we're going to discuss about the mouth. So it is the mechanical digestion includes chewing and swallowing. Then chemical digestion of carbohydrates and fats also occur here with the help of the enzyme. The digestion of carbohydrates in mouth occur with the help of salivary amylase, and the fats, digestion of fats will occur with the help of enzyme that is lingual lipase. Then talking about the function of stomach. So here mechanical digestion includes peristaltic mixing and propulsion. Chemical digestion of proteins and fats also occur here. Then absorption of lipid soluble substances such as alcohol and aspirin also occur here. So basically whenever we talk about the digestion, so digestion basically occurs in two parts. The first we have mechanical and the second we have chemical. In mechanical, basically the food get broken down into small particles, and in chemical digestion includes whenever the enzymes that are secreted by various glands and various cells in the GIT. So basically those enzymes will mix when act upon the food, and those enzymes help in the digestion of food or make into more simpler and soluble form. Then next we have the small intestine. So here mechanical digestion includes mixing and propulsion primarily by segmentation. So segmentation is basically the movement of small intestine. So segmentation is in the mixing of food. So basically what will happen in segmentation, there will be to and fro motion of the food like pendulum. There will be a to and fro motion like pendulum, so that the food will get with the enzymes or with the juices which help in the digestion of food. So segmentation movement we're going to discuss, and again this is the very important part for your university exams also. We're going to discuss in the chapter in the class of small intestine. Then chemical digestion of carbohydrates, fats, polypeptides, and nucleic acid take place here. Then absorption of peptides, amino acids, glucose, fructose, fats, water, minerals, vitamins again take place here. Then the last we have the large intestine. So mechanical digestion includes segmental mixing and propulsion. So again here the large intestinal juices also present. So basically there will be a mixing of food with the large intestinal juice. Then no chemical digestion occur here except the digestion that will occur by the bacteria, and there will be the maximum absorption of water take place here, so that the feces, there will be feces formation can be occurred. So absorption of ions, water, minerals, vitamins, and organic molecule will be occurring there. Okay, so here I'm going to launch the next question. Just give me a minute. Which portion of stomach opens into small intestine? So you can answer in the comment box or the message box also. I'm giving you 30 seconds. Right now, we have discussed that the structure, a very important structure that is present between stomach and intestine. When the food get ready inside the stomach and then delivered, the chyme get delivered inside the small intestine, that sphincter. The name is related with the sphincter. Yes, I get the answer. Yes, parolic sphincter. Correct. So the answer will be parolic portion. Okay, now next we have the accessory digestive organ. So the accessory digestive organs are those which help primary digestive organs for the process of digestion. So it includes teeth, tongue, salivary glands, exocrine part of pancreas, liver and gallbladder. So as we know, teeth is present inside the mouth. So basically teeth is help in the chewing of food so that the food will get broken down into smaller pieces so that the digestion can be occurred properly. Then next we have the tongue. So tongue is basically help in the mixing of food with the saliva. Another function could be that it also over the tongue some taste receptors are present which help in the deduction of taste. Then next we have the salivary glands. So the main function of the salivary gland is to produce saliva. So the salivary glands, the major salivary glands we know that is parotid, sublingual, submandibular. Then next we have the exocrine part of pancreas. So as we know that pancreas is a heterocrine gland. It has endocrine as well as exocrine part. So from the exocrine part of pancreas, we get a very important juice that is known as pancreatic juice, and it is responsible for the digestion of fats, proteins, carbohydrates. Then next we have the liver. So liver, as we know that liver is a very important organ, and here in GIT, the main role of the liver is to secrete bile. And bile, as we know that bile is important for the emulsification of fat. Then the last we have the gallbladder. So gallbladder is basically here is responsible for the storage of bile. Then next we have the wall of GI tract, which is formed by 4 layers. So first will be mucus layer. The second will be submucus. The third is muscular layer. The fourth is serous or fibrous layer. So one by one, we're going to discuss these layers in detail. So first we have mucus layer. So basically this is lined by the epithelium and consists of stroma containing glands, musculated mucosa and some loose connective tissue. So basically this layer is the innermost layer of the wall of GI tract, and this is also known as gastrointestinal mucosa or mucous membrane. So as we can see in the diagram also, this is the innermost layer. Then mucosa has 3 layers of structure. The first is epithelial lining, the second is lamina propria, and the third is muscularis mucosa. Then next to mucus layer, we have submucous layer. It consists of loose connective tissue, blood vessels, and some lymphatics. So basically, submucous layer is also present in all part of GIT tract except mouth and, just give me a minute, except mouth and appendix. It contains loose collagen fibers, elastic fibers, reticular fibers, and cells of connective tissue. As we know that blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerve plexus are also present in this layer. So for the diagram, we can see this is the submucous layer here. This is present. Then we have muscular layer. So the muscular layer is present in lips, cheek, and wall of pharynx, contains skeletal muscle fibers. The esophagus has both skeletal and smooth muscle fiber. Wall of the stomach and intestine is formed by the smooth muscle fiber. So in stomach, basically, the smooth muscle fiber are arranged in 3 layers. the inner oblique layer, middle circular layer, and outer longitudinal layer. Whereas in intestine, smooth muscle fibers are arranged in only two layers, in inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. And one more thing I wanted to add, that basically this layer is responsible for the motility of food. Because of this layer, the contraction occurs in the GIT. So the difference between the stomach and intestine, as we can see, there is the additional presence of middle circular layer in the stomach. Then next we have the Orbeck's plexus, or the another name of Orbeck's plexus is Meyntrich plexus. So basically this plexus is responsible for the motility of food inside the stomach. So as we know, this GI tract has its own nervous system, and we're going to discuss about it also today. And that nervous system is known as andric nervous system. And through this only, the Meyntrich nerve plexus is controlled. So Orbeck nerve plexus is present between the circular and longitudinal muscle fiber. So this plexus is basically present in this muscular layer. The smooth muscle fiber present in the inner circular layer of anal canal constitute internal anal sphincter, and the external anal sphincter is formed by skeletal muscle fibers. So basically, that's why the internal anal sphincter isn't involuntary, means it is not in our control because it is made up of smooth muscle fibers, and the external anal sphincter is made up of, or is formed of, skeletal muscle fibers. So that's why it is voluntary. So you need to remember that inside the anus, internal anal sphincter is involuntary. It is not in our control. It is composed of smooth muscles, but the external anal sphincter is made up of skeletal muscle fiber. So that's why it is voluntary in nature. Then next we have, you can see the Orbeck's plexus or the Meyntrich plexus present in submucous layer. Then next we have the outermost, the serous or fibrous layer, the serosa, as you can see in the diagram. This is the outermost. So the outermost layer of the wall of GI tract is either serous or fibrous in nature. The serous layer is also called as serosa or serous membrane, and it is formed by connective tissue and mesoepithelial cells. It covers stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. Fibrous layer is otherwise called fibrosa, and it is formed by connective tissue. It covers pharynx and esophagus. Now we're going to discuss about the very important structure, or we're going to discuss about the very important nervous system. As we have discussed, the GIT has its own nervous system, and the name of that nervous system is andric nervous system. So basically, GI tract has two types of nerve supply. The first we have intrinsic nerve supply, and the second we have extrinsic nerve supply. So in intrinsic nerve supply, we're going to discuss about two plexus. The one is the Meyntrich nerve plexus, and the second is mesonerve nerve plexus. So student, you need to remember very important function about Meyntrich and mesonerves, that Meyntrich plexus is always involved for the motility of food inside the GIT. So the main and the primary function of Orbeck's or Meyntrich plexus is motility of food. Clear? Then second we have mesonerve plexus. So basically the mesonerve plexus is responsible for increasing the secretions. Secretions may be through the cells which are present inside the stomach, or the cells which are present inside the small intestine. So the mesonerve plexus always involved for the increasing secretions, and Meyntrich plexus always involved for increasing motility. And again, both motility and secretions are increased by the parasympathetic stimulation of ANS. ANS and parasympathetic and sympathetic also we're going to discuss in extrinsic nerve supply. So here, just like an overview I'm giving, that Meyntrich nerve plexus always involved for the motility of food, and mesonerve nerve plexus always involved for increasing secretions. And both secretions and motility can be increased by parasympathetic stimulation And both motility and stimulation can be decreased by sympathetic stimulation. You need to remember these things, the important concepts. Now, we're going to start with the intrinsic innervations. So as we know, it is divided into mindric, the orbits or misoners. So intrinsic nerves to GI tract from the intrinsic nervous system that control all the secretions and movement of GI tract. So enteric nervous system is present within the wall of GI tract from esophagus to anus. Nerve fibers of this system are interconnected and form two major networks. So as we know, the first we have mindric and the second we have misoners. So basically this mindric plexus, first if we talk about the mindric plexus, so it lies between longitudinal and circular smooth muscle layer and it innervates both the layers. It is mainly motor in nature. You have to remember that it is motor in nature, whereas the misoners is sensory in nature. Okay. It's the mindric nerve plexus stimulates and it increases the activity of gut by increasing the tone of gut wall, by increasing intensity of rhythmic contraction, the third by increasing velocity of conduction of excitatory waves along the gut wall. You need to remember that always the mindric plexus is responsible for increasing movement of food inside the GI tract. The next we have the misonous plexus. So the misonous plexus, again, it lies between the submucous layer and inner circular smooth muscle layer. And again, as we have discussed, it is sensory in function and it is concerned with the control of exocrine and endocrine secretions by the cell in the GIT. It also innervates the submucosal blood vessels to control local blood flow. Now, both the plexes are interconnected and are controlled by extrinsic nerve control by both sympathetic and parasympathetic. We know that parasympathetic always increase secretions and motility, whereas sympathetic always decrease. So again, I'm asking, you can answer in the message box that mindric plexus is responsible for increasing motility or secretions of GI tract. I'm giving you 30 seconds to answer. Motility or secretions? Mindric plexus, I'm asking. Anyone? Okay, Venkatesh, can you answer? No answer. So mindric plexus is responsible for increasing motility and misonous plexus is responsible for increasing all the secretions. Secretions, for example, gastric juice secretion, pancreatic juice secretion, succus centricus secretions. Okay, so don't worry. Day by day, as we go through the stomach, large intestine, small intestine, you will get to know that what are these secretions and why they are so important and what is their basic role. So above nerve plexus contain nerve cell bodies, processes of nerve cells and the receptors. The receptors in the GI tract are stretch receptors and chemoreceptors. Enteric nervous system is controlled by extrinsic. Both the nerve plexes are connected to central nervous system through sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers. So next we have this structure we have already discussed. We have discussed that Auricle'S plexus is present and misonous plexus is here. Okay, so we're going to discuss in little bit more detail about the mindric plexus or orbic plexus. So basically the mindric nerve plexus or orbix plexus is present in inner circular muscle layer and outer longitudinal muscle layer as we have discussed. Here is the structure. Then the function of mindric plexus is to regulate the movements of GIT. So basically, it is responsible for integrate movement of food. Integrate, basically two types of movements are there: antegrade and retrograde. Antegrade means whenever the food is moving from esophagus to stomach, stomach to intestine, and retrograde means backward movement, means the movement of foods from stomach to esophagus, esophagus to mouth, and that occurs in the case of vomiting only. Then some nerve fibers of these plexus accelerate the movement by secreting the excitatory neurotransmitters, substances like acetylcholine, serotonin, and substance P. Now, what is the main role of acetylcholine? Why serotonin and substance P very important, and what are their basic role, that we're going to learn in the further chapters of small intestine and stomach also. Then next we have the other fibers of this plexus inhibit the GI motility by secreting the inhibitory neurotransmitters such as VIP. VIP is vasoactive intestinal polypeptide and neurotensins and enkephalin. So basically, these are the inhibitory neuropeptides. So basically, they are responsible for inhibiting the movement. Okay, and the neurotransmitters like serotonin, acetylcholine, substance P are responsible for increasing the motility inside the GI tract. Then next we have the submucous nerve plexus or Mesenus plexus is situated between the muscular layer and submucosal layer of GI tract. And as we know, the function of submucous plexus is the regulation of secretion function of GI tract. And these nerve fibers cause constriction of blood vessels of GI tract so that the secretion can be increased inside the GI tract. Then next we have the very important thing, the extrinsic nerve supply. So as already we have discussed, the extrinsic nerve supply has two major components. The first we have sympathetic and the second we have parasympathetic. The parasympathetic is always responsible in GIT to increase motility and to increase secretion, whereas the sympathetic always responsible for decreasing motility and for decreasing secretion. You need to remember, parasympathetic means increase, sympathetic means decreasing. So intrinsic nerves that control the enteric nervous system are from autonomic nervous system. So as we know that autonomic nervous system is involuntary in control. Both sympathetic and parasympathetic division of ANS innervates the GI tract. Sympathetic nerve fibers, preganglionic sympathetic nerve fibers to GI tract arise from lateral horns of spinal cord between 5th thoracic and 2nd lumbar segments. From here, the fibers leave the spinal cord and pass through the ganglia of sympathetic chain without having any synapse and then terminate in the celiac and mesenteric ganglia. Postganglionic fibers from these ganglia are distributed throughout the GI tract. So here they have talked about the location and how the fibers innervates. Then next we have the role of sympathetic and parasympathetic. So as we know that parasympathetic nerves release acetylcholine at their ending and by depolarization of smooth muscle membrane produce contraction of GIT. So basically, by or with the help of some neurotransmitters such as acetylcholine, the motility inside the GIT can be increased by parasympathetic stimulation. Then stimulation of parasympathetic nerves to GIT also produces, or basically this is also responsible for the increasing secretion from the stomach, especially of enzymes and of intestine also. So basically, if we talk about the function of parasympathetic stimulation, so it is responsible for, first, it will be increasing motility and tone, second, increasing secretions, and third, relaxation of sphincter. So if the sphincter are relaxed, so means at relaxed stage, they will be open, and in constricted stage they will be closed. So means if the sphincter is constricted, so there will be no movement of food will occur. Movement means passage. See, if I talk about the sphincter that is present between stomach and small intestine, so if the pyrolic sphincter is closed, means it is constricted, so the food movement from stomach to duodenum will not occur. But if it is relaxed, so means it is open. So at that time, the food can pass from stomach to small intestine. So the parasympathetic stimulation is responsible for increasing motility and tone. Second, relaxation of sphincter. And third, for increasing secretions of GIT. The three important functions it has. You need to remember. Then next we have the sympathetic. So basically, sympathetic nerve releases epinephrine at their ending by hyperpolarization of smooth muscle membrane. Result in relaxation of GIT musculature, and the stimulation of sympathetic nerves produce three important functions. The first, the function which is exactly opposite to parasympathetic. The first, I'm talking about the function of sympathetic. The first, we have decrease in motility and tone. The second, we have constriction of sphincter. The third, we have inhibition of secretion from the stomach, and probably also inhibit the secretion of intestine. So the function of parasympathetic and sympathetic is both are opposite. So all these preganglionic parasympathetic nerve fiber synapse with the postganglionic nerve fiber in the meningeal plexus and submucous plexus. So the function of parasympathetic nerve fiber accelerate the movement and increase the secretion of GI tract. These neurotransmitters secreted by parasympathetic nerve fiber, and that is acetylcholine. So here I am having the last question, which is the principal organ for absorption. And I think now you all can answer this. I'm giving 30 seconds to answer this. So the answer is C, small intestine. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a very quick revision of introduction to GIT. So basically, as we know from the mouth, the chewed food mixes with saliva and passes to the pharynx and then into the esophagus, which is 25 centimeter long fibromuscular tube lined with mucous membrane. The contraction and expansion movement of its wall, known as peristaltic movement, cause the food again to pass inside the stomach. So in stomach, we have HCl, pepsin. HCl is responsible for killing the bacteria. Pepsin is responsible for protein digestion. And here a very important lining, that is mucous lining, also present inside the stomach, which help or which prevent it from the exposure of HCl. Then here there will be a secretion of gastric juice, which will again help, which contain very important enzymes and again help in the digestion of food. Now the food has become partially digested. Partially digested means because the full digestion of food does not occur here. The complete digestion of food will occur in the small intestine. So if the question in the MCQ will ask that where the digestion of food initiated, so that will, the answer will be mouth, and where the complete digestion of food occurs, so answer will be small intestine. So from stomach, the food passes into the small intestine, the first part of this being the duodenum, as we know, which is 25 centimeter long and shaped like C structure. The remainder of small intestine consists of jejunum, which is 2.5 meter long, and the ileum, which is about 3.5 meter long. Now, again, the small intestine also has its own juices such as succus centricus, and also it will receive bile from liver and pancreatic juice from pancreas, and which also contain very important enzyme for the digestion of fats, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins. Then the small intestine then merge with the large intestine with through wider. Then the small intestine is much shorter, being in total 1.5 to 1.8 meter long. The large intestine is divided into 9 parts. Okay, starting with the cecum, then into which the ileum open. The opening is also being by the ileocecal wall. So basically, between ileum and the cecum, there is a presence of wall that is known as ileocecal wall. And why this wall is also important? Because it allows on flow but prevent backflow of food back to the small intestine. Here finally in small intestine there will be absorption of water and some minerals and some vitamins. Then the food here in the large intestine, there will be formation of feces or stools also occur here, and after the formation of feces, those feces get stored inside the rectum, and whenever the reflex of defecation will come, the food get discharged out of the body with the help of ants. So I hope now the process that is being formed inside the GI tract means the very small parts now being clear to you, and in detail we're going to discuss in the further class. So next class tomorrow we're going to have over the mouth and the saliva. So thank you so much.